Offset red dots. Why should they be paired with magnified optics? That's a great question. Let's talk about it. So here we've got a beautiful SCAR 17 with a 3.5 to 18 voodoo, and it's a great piece of glass. It's going to do a ton of things for me. But at the side here, you can see I have an EFLX offset, and that is providing me a lot of additional value. And that's what we're talking about today. Why pair an offset red dot with your magnified optic? So let's dig into it. So first things first, red dots are made for up close fast shooting. That is the primary function of this offset EFLX. If I am on my gun, I've got the magnification dialed up, I'm observing or I'm shooting at farther distances, and I realize I need to take a shot up close, whether that is in a real life lethal force engagement or in a competition where I'm planning my stage and I'm moving through it and I've got a target out there and I got to shoot at something up close. This offset lets me keep my magnification high, do the work I need to through my scope, and then come off the magnified optic, roll the gun slightly, and then get on that red dot very, very easily, very quickly. Now, there are two mounting options, just as a caveat. You can either do an offset to the side like this, or some mounts allow you to mount it at the 12 o'clock position, and that's kind of personal preference and whatever height over bore you prefer for your red dot. But the main function of this is fast shooting. I can run this gun at distance, nice and slow and precise, and then, like I said before, I can just roll the gun right over. I'm on the dot and I'm shooting quick, and that's the primary function. But what else does this do for me? So the next thing this allows me to do, and this is a personal preference, is it allows me to have multiple zeros on one gun. So I have a 100-yard zero on my primary optic and a 50-yard zero on my EFLX. The reason I did that is so that I know my ballistics, I have my little range card, and I can shoot this with match ammo pretty far. I can easily get hits out to 8 to 1,000 if I'm doing my job and the environmental conditions are good, because this is a 16-inch barrel. So yes, I'm sacrificing some velocity for compactness and a little bit of weight savings on this gun, but you can shoot at distance with a red dot pretty well as long as you know your holds. And like I said, I have a 50-yard zero on this red dot. And what that allows me to do is use my discretion and decide which optic I'm going to use at a given range and whatever works best for me. Now, that can get a little nerdy with math. If that's not your thing, don't worry about it. Focus on the primary function, which is fast up close shooting, because you still can use these guns in more of a carbine style of shooting if you need to. Yeah, the recoil is a little bit heavier. Your split times are going to be a little bit longer because you're dealing with that increased recoil, but they still absolutely work for shooting pretty quick up close. We have some pretty good real-world use cases of this recently from the conflicts we've seen going on around the world, where different units are employing battle rifles because they do have targets at pretty extended distances, and all of a sudden they'll find themselves, for a variety of reasons, shooting up close, and this is a really advantageous setup for that. In fact, we've seen this for years in the competition market. That's where this sort of came from, is guys wanted to be able to keep their scopes dialed in, shoot those targets in multi-gun competitions out at distance, and then burn it down up close without having to dial. And that is a really, really great thing. So those are the first two reasons that I have an offset EFLX with my Voodoo. However, let's talk about that final point. All right, and the final point or benefit of having an offset is I can actually use this to walk myself on with the optic. So if you guys have spent some time behind glass, you know that sometimes looking out, you're observing an area and you see something you want to zoom in on, but looking through this is kind of like looking through a straw. It's a very limited field of view despite how good this glass is. You just can't get around it. It's what magnified optics do. I can use my red dot as a reference point, and I can either move my head or I can roll the optic a little bit, find the thing I'd like to focus on, and then roll my optic back to my primary eye in a vertical position, and the optic is looking at that subject. Therefore, it's a lot easier to keep, again, the glass, the magnification I need, and not do that whole thing where I'm trying to, especially if I'm in the standing or a sort of off, supported position, I'm trying to find, well, where is that thing? Look over here, hold it, dial it, all that kind of stuff. That can get really awkward. It's much faster to just keep this thing dialed in at a good magnification. I can look out, I can see my subject, I can put my red dot on it, and then just roll the optic in position, and I'm aiming right at it. It's a nice reference tool for, again, if I'm trying to do what actually a large majority of people do with magnified optics, which isn't just shooting, it's observation and reporting. It's a very critical skill to have, and it's something that's very useful for a setup like this. Again, I can observe, I can shoot at distance, and as long as I'm training on it, I can use this thing up close pretty well like a normal fighting rifle. And that's why I love battle rifles. They're very, very versatile. Yep, a little bit heavier recoil, a little bit of heavier gun, definitely more expensive to get into, but they serve a super useful purpose. That's why they've been around for so long, and they're gonna stay around for a very long time. So guys, if you have a fighting battle rifle in a heavier, larger caliber, 6.5, 6.8, 308, whatever the case may be, and you're thinking about putting a magnified optic on it, consider running a red dot on the side or on top as well, because it really is a very useful tool that really increases your capability. I'd love to hear what you guys think down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Train hard to live free. See you next time.